Hi, Amoy. How are you?
Hi, Chanel. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, great. So this is a first time, and I'm actually really excited about it because I know I wanted to do this, but I needed to do it with someone that I could have fun with and someone that understands me and, allow everything to just flow.
That's
So,
right.
so I needed to interview you. Um, so basically, I know you're pregnant. You're actually 36 weeks pregnant now
Yes,
at
yes,
the time of this recording.
yes.
And I have never asked anyone, at least on recorded, if when they were pregnant, about their feelings towards pregnancy and the upcoming journey of motherhood. So this
Ooh.
is my first opportunity to do this, and I'm really excited. So it's going to be kind of like a rapid fire question and answer, as well as just a little bit more information from you about your feelings about this whole experience at hand. So, first things first, tell me a little bit about yourself, Amoy. How old are you?
So first of all, I'm very happy to be here. Chanel and I have been friends for over 20 years. We met at McMaster University, and yes, very excited to be here and love the Caribbean Birth Story series. So my name is Amoy Jacques. I am 39 years old and 36 weeks pregnant. I guess on a professional level, I wear several hats. So I am a public health researcher with a focus on women's and reproductive health. That's my research focus. And I've also been a registered kinesiologist for 15 years. I've, done clinical work around health promotion, injury prevention for a long time, and then recently transitioned into women's health. So myself and my business partner, Joanne Uposidolo, we have a clinic that we focus on women's health issues that I know we're going to delve into a little bit later, called Wound Care Clinic. So that's kind of my hats. Like I wear hats when it comes to my personal life and my professional life. It's kind of merged into this dream of having my own clinic and doing research in the areas that I love.
Yes. Well, that's really exciting. And yes, definitely, I am going to put in the show notes how people can get in touch with you, Womb Care Clinic, your Instagram. So you're going to give me all your handles, and we'll just keep that in the show notes so that people can
Awesome.
access it. Okay. And you are actually in Canada. We forgot to mention that.
Yes, yes. My husband and I, we live in Canada. We are in London, Ontario, which is about 2 hours from Toronto. We
Mhm.
just moved here. So moving while pregnant, I do not recommend it, but thank you, Lord. It's all over. The house is ready. We haven't lost our heads and the
Mhm.
nursery is ready. So
Fantastic. Most importantly.
most important, yes.
Okay, now this is Caribbean Bird Stories. So some might be thinking, okay, she's from Canada, and what am I doing? This is just a friend thing. No,
Yes.
because Amoy, you were actually born in Jamaica, correct?
Yes, yes. So I was born and raised in Jamaica. I moved to Canada when I was 14 years old. So I still do remember living in
And
Jamaica
yes, and
with,
you still break out into your patois.
I do still break out into a little patois every now and then. And yeah, so it's been an interesting journey for me, like living in Jamaica and having that cultural experience of um, being in a country that I can call my own, and now moving to Canada, which I've lived for the majority of my life, but still holding my Jamaican roots very, very close. I'm a very proud Jamaican woman. And yes, love my family, love my culture, love everything about the culture. So,
Yeah. Okay, great. So, in one word, can you describe your pregnancy to date? One word.
wow. I would say it's a miracle, and I know we're going to get into why I would use that word, but it really has been an interesting and a long, winding journey. But it simply is a miracle because I would say if you asked me this question in 2020, I would have given up. Like I had just resolved to the fact that, you know what, I'm probably not going to get pregnant. It's not for me. I'm just going to focus on myself and just let it be. So it really is a miracle.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, it's a perfect segue into your road and your journey towards pregnancy. So, just give us an idea of all the different steps
Yes.
and milestones to this miracle.
Yeah, so this journey very well. I know you've had some guests that have talked about some of these common reproductive health issues that women have, specifically Black women across the diaspora. But for myself, so I got married in March 2011 in Laguna Beach, California, head in the clouds, had a great wedding. And my husband and I had decided, okay, year one, we're just going to do us. We're going to do the vacation and enjoy ourselves. But year two, let's just hit the ground running and start a family. And so from that point, no one had told me how difficult it can be to conceive. Keep in mind that, there are family members that I have that had difficulty to conceive, but it never crossed my mind that that would be my journey. I just thought that's their journey. We're going to have our own. It's going to be beautiful. Year two, we're going to start, trying. And so like every couple that gets married, we started trying and nothing. And so, initially I thought, okay, it's going to take some time. Like the body doesn't know that I've never been pregnant before.
Yeah.
And it became a 10-year journey. And so along that journey, there's been a lot of highs, a lot of lows, a lot of tears, and just really reprocessing who I am as a woman, and reclaiming my identity, because a lot of the times we as women take on these roles that society places on us, that you need to be married, you need to have children at a certain time, you need to have not just one, you need to have two. Why you just have one like a picnic? Them need a brother or a sister. You know how we talk, right? And so all of those things I felt were stripped away from me. So it has been a re-identity for me during this whole journey. So from a medical standpoint, I was diagnosed with uterine fibroids at the age of 22. And at the time of diagnosis, I wasn't given enough information from my doctor to say that this could impact fertility. So again, that didn't enter my mind that that would be an issue. And it wasn't until we were trying, really consistently in the early years of our marriage, and after doing my own research, that I realized that this can definitely pose an issue when it comes to implantation, when it comes to miscarriages, and that it's really prevalent among Black women for a host of risk factors, right? And so, that was one challenge to deal with. Keep in mind that women that have uterine fibroids can get pregnant as well, so that's not the only reason. There are other factors like egg quality, sperm count, and all those things, and also the integrity of the uterus. So that was one aspect. The other aspect was throughout the journey, I was also diagnosed with endometriosis, and I just thought, God, I don't know what you're doing, but to have now two strikes against me, right? Why would this be happening? And the challenge with endometriosis, as we all know, is that it's not just contained within the uterus, it can grow anywhere. It's really a whole body disease. And the increased challenge with endometriosis is that it can also impact egg quality, which is another conundrum, right? And so that was one of the other challenges that I had as we were trying. So, we went through the process of doing intrauterine insemination, which is IUIs. Those were not successful. And each time I'm going through this, there's the emotional and financial turmoil. There's the stripping of who I feel to be, like this level of inadequacy that's just being stripped away from me. And I thought, I can't keep going through this. Like at some point I have to decide, or just be comfortable with the fact that this may not happen. I may not be able to have a child naturally or through assisted reproductive therapy. And, it got to the point where I just said, you know what, I just need to take a break. We ended up having one IVF that did not go well. And after that, I just said, what, I need a break. I don't know if this is the right journey for me. But I know I can't go through another emotional turmoil like this again. And during that time, I had lots of conversations with my mom, who has been my rock throughout this, as well as my husband, who has been a rock throughout all of this. And I just started to reframe and say, if I cannot be a mother in this way, there are other ways to mother. And I think that's another awakening that I had, that, if I can't mother by becoming pregnant naturally or through ART, then I can always adopt. And so we started looking into, adoption and what that would mean, and, what the attachment would look like. And this was all happening around the time of the pandemic. So the pandemic kind of was a hidden blessing in the sense that it gave me time to just kind of breathe. And, everyone was on pause. It's not just me, because I felt like for the first 10 years of my life, when it came to this aspect of family planning, my life was just on pause. Like everyone is progressing, having their family, doing their thing. And here I am just kind of stuck and on pause. So when the pandemic came, it gave me just a moment to just breathe and really just focus on myself. And I would say it was a blessing because I needed that self-care time. I really needed to reevaluate, Amoy, you're still a highly accomplished woman. You can still mother in many different ways. You actually mother in a lot of different ways, but with the company that you started with Wound Care Clinic, and the research that I've designed around just understanding the experience that Black people have around endometriosis and uterine fibroids. In that way, I'm mothering the community. And that took a while. Like I had to go through therapy, which I know that's something that is emerging within our communities, where more and more people are feeling comfortable. But I really needed to reframe and restructure my mind around, what does mothering look like for Amoy? And if it doesn't look like the traditional way, can I still have access to motherhood in other ways, through my work, through my creativity, through other avenues? And so
I want to stop you right there, because I
yeah,
think what you're saying is so important. And I think, and I want us to sit in it for a little bit, just because
sure.
so many women don't know how to process things the way that you have, or you processed that experience of reframing what mothering means to you and what mothering looks like for you. So were there any, and you talk about therapy, but were there any specific tasks, treatment options that provided you with the necessary tools to allow you to reframe and to bring you to that new awakening? Were there any specific things that you did or were told to you that helped with the reframing?
Yeah, definitely. I think, when you go through any major disappointment that creates a shift with your identity, it does require a lot of self-reflection. And I do spend a lot of time self-reflecting. And I think that's been one of my saving graces. So I would say self-reflection has been one of those tools where it just helps me to unearth, okay, what are some ways that first of all, what is a mother? Like, what is the definition of a mother? What are the characteristics? Someone that cares for, someone unconditionally, there's no strings attached, and I do that in so many different ways. Like I've been involved in women's ministry at my church for over 10 years. That's
Right.
one way I'm mothering, right? I don't have to do it. It's volunteer time. Um, Also in just taking care of my family, I'm very big on, making sure that, people feel comfortable when they're around me and being present. So that's another way that I, mother in a way. And
Mhm.
also just looking at the way my mother mothered me, it was another way for me to reframe things. My mom got sick, as you know, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and then I had to mother her during
Mhm.
the time that she was sick. And when I was going through that period, I'm just like, I'm actually learning how to mother, in a different way, even though it was very challenging. And also, I have several god kids. One of them lives very close to me. And, each time I meet with him, I try to be as present as I can. So that was another way to kind of mother without feeling bitter, because I do understand that during this process of infertility, there's a lot of grief. And that's something that I know we don't talk about. There's not enough space for us to talk about the grieving. And, maybe we can talk about that later. But I had my grieving moment, but being with my godson was a way, and is a way, for me to just mother him in a way that I don't have access to with other kids that I'm around.
Yes.
And so I want to be present for those moments. So I just had to make a decision that, in the examples that I just gave you, I'm just going to be as present as I can. so I don't miss out on the mothering that I'm doing in the community,
Yes.
right? Because it doesn't look like the traditional sense. And sometimes we take that for granted.
Mhm.
So that's something that just kind of helped me. And, in therapy, I remember my therapist saying one day, like when I went through like all the different things I'm doing, she's like, but you are a mother. And I'm like, what is this woman talking about? I'm just like, I just don't tell you something. I'm no picnic. And you're coming to tell me, say, I'm a mother. I'm like, have you been listening? Like, we've been talking for a half an hour now. And she's like, no, you're a mother. You're a mother to the community. And I really had to let that sink in, Chanel, into my soul and really own it.
Mm.
Right. And I think that process helped with the reframing and the re-identifying that I am mothering in different
Yes.
ways, and it's okay.
And it's
And I
okay.
don't, and it's okay. And I don't have to be grievous or resentful anymore because I'm feeling that need, right? Because this is an innate need. This is a desire that, for women that do want to have children, this
Right.
is a desire that's not going to go away,
Yeah.
right? So how are you going to fill that need?
That's just wonderful. And I really wanted, I know you were on a roll with the rest of your story, but I needed you to stop there because I feel like talk is great, sharing is great, but having the tools to put things into action is important.
Yeah,
So self-reflection, journaling, just spending that alone time. And I would agree with you, this period of pandemic, especially when most places were under lockdown,
yes.
allowed many of us to sit and just think and sit
Mhm.
and figure certain things out. But as we start reopening and closing and reopening and closing, you
Yeah,
know, we get we probably get caught back into that cycle of just go, 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 go.
exactly.
But it's so important that we have to make the time to sit and figure out, okay, what does this mean for me? How can I move forward? And
Yeah.
if it is, I'm not able to become a mother, what does that look like? What does that mean? Are there things I can do? Am I already doing certain
Yeah.
things?
And who am I now? If I'm not, if I don't have those things, if I don't have, a baby at the breast, who am I? Does that make me lesser than? Does that make me more than? Who am I
Correct.
trying to please? Because at the end of the day, we have to wrestle with ourselves, right? Like I know we talk a lot about societal pressure, but we really have to get to the point where we can reconcile with ourselves and we're fine because that's all that matters in terms of or who we are in this world, right? And so that was very important to me because I went through many, many moments feeling depressed and feeling inadequate, even though I was doing all these things, like it wasn't bringing me that joy. And I'm like, then why am I giving all of my time in these areas then? Right.
Yeah.
And so it really, like the pandemic forced me
Yeah.
to reevaluate who I am, my identity as a Moy outside of for infertility, all the different things that are attached to me, like just me as an
Yeah.
individual. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So, all right. So let's get back. So you left off. Well, I interrupted you when you were speaking
Okay.
about reframing, but take us to 2020 then, or
So
2019.
yeah, so 2020 came and I felt like I had, enough rest and the whole re-identity happened and I felt like I had enough energy to kind of look at things in a different way and perhaps try again,
Right.
right? So try this whole process again because at the end of the day, I wanted to, I desire, and I still have that desire to be a mother, where, I want to have a child. So I said, you know what, we will try one more time through, fertility treatment. And if it doesn't work, I just kind of left things open. And
Right.
I had that talk with the Lord. I'm like, I'm just going to leave it open. If it doesn't happen, then we'll just adopt, and that's fine.
Right.
And getting to that, I really wanted to do the heart work. So HEART work with that, because I think for a lot of couples that go through infertility, the adoption is just like, oh, default or last resort. And I didn't want to feel like that. I didn't
Right.
want to place that kind of negative energy into the process or into, if we had to adopt, the child would be feeling, resentful that, they didn't come from my womb and all that stuff. So I just kind of laid everything open. And
Mm-hmm.
so we tried again, and I was in a better headspace and just said, you know what, we'll just let it be. And so in the fall of 2020 is when we tried again. And in November, I'll never forget, my husband and I were sitting in the car. And usually when we get these calls, I'm at work. When they you go through the treatment process, and then they give you a call to see what your pregnancy test is. And I just said, Lord, I just don't want any bad news while I'm at work. Just please allow this to be, if it's going to happen, allow it to be good news. And I remember my husband said, let's just have lunch. Let's just be together. Even if you have to go back to work and it's not favorable news, at least we were together for that news.
For it. Yes.
And so I remember we were having Subway in the car, and we're waiting for the call, and the phone rings. And the nurse is just like, well, congratulations, you're pregnant. And in that split moment, Chanel, it's like time just flipped. So we went from all these years, 10 years of like trying, and all the trials that I, explained, to, oh, now you're pregnant. Now, okay, what's going to happen? Like ultrasound and more blood tests. And I'm like, okay. So it was just like in a split second, your life can change so quickly. And it took me a while to even process that. I'm just like, oh, this is what we've been waiting for, like this whole shift. And, I have to say that I've just been taking in all the different moments of just kind of feeling this miracle that has happened, because this is only God. This is only God to allow this to be successful. And yeah, it was just one of those monumental moments where I'm like, wow, okay, this is it.
Mm-hmm. That, I just get goosebumps thinking about you and Patrick sitting in the car waiting and hearing that. Anyway, so okay, talk to me now about you're pregnant and you're 36, you're very pregnant, 36
very
weeks.
Pregnant, yes.
Very pregnant. What has surprised you the most about pregnancy?
So I think what has surprised me the most is how much my body can endure. Because as I mentioned, I had fibroids. I had actually 38 fibroids. So I've experienced, my uterus being under so much pressure. And there was a moment when, in my first trimester, when I was just like, Lord, I'm just praying for the integrity of my uterus, because it's just been under so much duress. Yes. And I just want to be able to make it to term, you know what I mean? And so what has surprised me the most is the fact that I haven't had any major complications, considering what my body has gone through. And it's given me a whole new appreciation for, women that have these issues. Like, we're warriors. Like, our bodies can go through the most tumultuous things and still produce beautiful things. And I just had to sit in that. Like, every time I'd make a milestone, like, I have the What to Expect app, and every week, my husband and I will watch our video, and those milestones were I'm just like, oh, we've made it to another week. This is great. This is great, and I think that's been the most exciting, that my body has been able to carry this without any major issues. And I'm just so grateful to God for that.
Yes. And what keeps you up at night though? So I know, well, first of all, I know you're not sleeping properly, because you be sending me messages at 2 a.m. and I'm like, Amoy, what are you doing? 3 a.m.
I know, because this kid is like, the kid's up. So I'm just like, okay, I guess I'm up too. I think what's keeping me up mostly is just, what kind of mother am I gonna be? Like, because I had a great template with my own mom, and she's just so patient, so kind. And I'm like, I know I have a short fuse. So especially when I don't get sleep, so I'm just like, Lord, I'm just praying that I don't become a dragon when this child is screaming in the morning. So that's one of the things. I think another thing that keeps me up, which is a little bit more sad, unfortunately, we lost my mom this year, 2020, April 2021, which was not a part of the plan. And, I'm still going through that process of just trying to understand the timing of things and why she isn't here for this. We talked about this, we've prayed about this, and she's not able to see the end product of it. And I think one of the other things that keeps me up is the fact that my son won't be able to meet her on this earth. And that is hard. That is hard. Like, even though I have pictures of her around, and Pat, my husband and I are very intentional about sharing her legacy with our child, just not having her here is something that I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to navigate that space, to
Yeah.
be quite honest. Yeah.
And would you say like that's like the biggest disappointment?
I think that's the biggest disappointment, for sure, for sure. Because, like I said, this is something that my mom was beside herself. Like, when she found out I was pregnant, she was beside herself with joy, beside herself. And, she was going through her own journey with chemo, and just was very intentional in terms of, planning out my baby shower. She was very intentional about making me like blankets. So she made baby blankets, baby booties. In December of last year, she made me a beautiful crocheted blanket. So I have all of these things because she really wanted to, one, show her appreciation for me taking care of her during this time, and looking forward to, her first grandchild. And so the disappointment is, it's still raw. And yeah, I just have to find ways to celebrate her, and to bring our son into that experience.
I mean, I've told you this a couple of times. You are certainly my hero. I don't know where you get your strength from. Because I know how incredibly hard that experience has been for you. And I just pray for you daily, just because I know you have to have the strength
Yeah.
to go on. But so if we just switch in emotions a little,
Yes.
um, when you think about going into labor, Amoy,
Ooh.
right? Let me hear, because the good thing about this two-part episode is that we're gonna talk now, and then I'm gonna interview you probably like many babies
We'll
2 months.
have the bacchanal
Yeah,
after the baby is born.
after the baby's born. And we will see. Like, I just cannot wait to see what the difference is, right? But what is your birth plan? So let's talk about that.
Let's talk about the birth plan.
Yeah, tell me your birth plan.
Okay, so I think, again, to preface my answer, because I've experienced, having a bulky uterus for all these years, and fibroids, I always knew that my journey to, the labor and delivery would not be the same as everybody else.
Right.
So somewhere along the journey, I knew that, I may need to have a C-section, and I've just let go of this whole notion that if I don't have a vaginal birth, I'm still as capable as any other woman. I think we have these stories around, oh, it's got to be vaginal. And if it's, if I don't have that experience, that it's not the right experience. It's just like, no, this is the safest experience for me. Because
exactly.
my uterus has been compromised. Okay.
Right.
So in terms of my birth plan, I'm having a C-section. And it's just interesting how God prepares you for things, because when I had my surgery for fibroids, it was a C-section cut, so it was a transverse cut. And I kind of experienced some of the healing, that would occur with a C-section cut.
Yes,
And I'm
yes.
just like, Lord, why are you even taking me through this? Like, I had to get a sitz bath. I'm just like, I may not have no picnic. I may have to do a sitz bath. What is going on? So anyways, now that I'm in this phase of, I know I need to have a C-section, I have my sitz bath already. I'm like, well, I'm prepared for that.
And you know what it's gonna feel like somewhat.
And I know what it's gonna feel like somewhat. I mean, I don't want to make the comparison that, with laparoscopic surgery, the cut is the same. The C-section, it's a lot deeper. So I just want to make that distinction. But at least I understand now, that 6-week process is going to be a little bit more challenging. I think for me, in terms of my birth plan, I've come to terms with the fact that, having a C-section, it's the safest for me, right? I think what scares me, to be quite honest, is if I were to go into labor, like, how would my uterus handle that?
Right.
Because the reality is still that, my uterus has been compromised. And so I just don't want to get into that situation where, having to push and all this stuff. And
so I mean, so if it is you were to go, have you spoken to your OB about that? If you
yeah. So if I were to go into labor, then I would have like an emergency section. But just going through the physical, like, pains of my
Contraction.
uterus under more, contraction and under more pressure. I'm just like, Lord Jesus, yeah. I guess I'll just have to go through it, right?
Yes,
I'll just have
yes,
to go through it.
yes.
But yeah, I would rather avoid all of that just based on my own experience.
Okay. And okay, final thing. So when when you bring the baby home and all of those things, God's willing,
Yes.
um, what do you think is going to be the most difficult adjustment for you?
I think the sleep. Chanel, I love my sleep. Like I slept so much during university.
Boy,
I had my little naps. I had my naps
listen
every
to me.
day. And
Amoy, for the listeners out there, Amoy would sleep between classes. Like literally go in her bed, take off her shoe, take off her clothes or whatever, lie down in her bed because she couldn't lie down in her bed in her street clothes and sleep
yes,
before the next class.
exactly. That was,
Normal. And then
yes,
go to sleep every night as well.
of course, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of
Yeah.
knew sleep would be what you
Sleep
would
is
say.
sleep is at the top. So I think that is going to be the hardest for me. Even
Mm-hmm.
though I'm having broken sleep now and
Right.
I'm fairly coherent and able to have conversation, which is great.
Yes.
But having a crying baby and knowing that I have to get up, and I think that's going to be the hardest thing, to be quite honest.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things I'm looking forward to is like, who's he going to look like?
Yes.
Is he going to have my husband's personality, which I am praying for, Lord Jesus, because my husband has a very beautiful temperament,
Yes.
patient,
You
kind.
too.
I do too. I can be a little fiery. I just don't want him to be fiery in the first 6 months. I just need calm. I just need calm.
Right.
So that's why the house is all calm. Like,
Mm.
so we'll see. He's gonna have his own personality and we're gonna embrace him no matter what. But it will just be interesting to see, his little character,
Right.
once he comes on the scene.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And if there's one piece of advice I would give to you is just be open. Be open to the fact that things may not go the way that you envision it and the way you've planned it, because we're planners.
Yes.
But I know for me, I had to accept a lot of things um as different to what I had envisioned, and
Mm,
in the beginning, it made the adjustment a little bit more challenging for me. So I say to you, just be open to everything being the complete opposite of what you imagine, and once you're open to that, then if it does, then you're like, okay, fine, I'll move with the tide. But
yeah.
if you're just really strict and rigid about, I want him to sleep at this time. And if he doesn't sleep at this time, you're going to probably be up for a long time, because babies, they do what they want to
They
do.
do what they
Um,
want.
they do what they want. But he might also be the best sleeper. So, but just being open, I think that takes a lot of the stress
Yes.
off of you. And, and the whole perfectionism and,
Yes,
trying to
girl.
do everything and, and
I've
be
I've been letting go of that. I've gotten a lot better
okay.
with that. Yes.
Okay, good.
So
And
like
be
I
patient
have
with
I have
Patrick. Be
yes,
patient
but
with Patrick.
yes, yes. I know that's gonna be one of the things. Because
Yeah.
he's also, he's also got his perfectionist tendencies, but he's good. He's more flexible than I am.
Right.
So we'll see how that all goes.
Because I feel like sometimes we think because we're the mother and we've, you know, produced the child,
Yes.
um, we are an authority on parenting,
Yes.
right? So, I know for me, I have my little challenges because I think things should be done a particular way.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
my husband doesn't do it in a particular way, I'm like, how are you gonna brush his teeth outside the bathroom? Like, use it.
That's why we have a bathroom and a
That's why we
sink.
have a bathroom, correct? So, but just like marriage, choose your battles, but allow him to be a father. That's what
Mhm.
I would say. Allow him to be a father, allow him to make his own mistakes, because he, just like you, it's the first time.
Yeah.
So, he's going to think one way might be the way, but it may not be, but let him figure it out. And we don't necessarily need to point that out,
Yeah,
you know.
that's solid. That is solid that we're both
Yeah.
new to this, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm not an expert, even though I'm going through the physical changes. But I
Right.
think that's solid advice. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. And I cannot wait for part two. And I do pray daily for you and baby Jacques.
Thank
And
you.
I, only wish you positive, positive, positive vibes and a safe delivery. All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
So any last words, any parting words?
Yeah. Parting words. Just not to give up hope that, mothering happens in so many different ways, and that you'll find your way, and that your journey is unique, but it's just as important as the conventional way.
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. So thank you, Amoy.
You're
And
welcome.
we'll see you in same episode, part two.
Yes, for sure.
Bye.
Bye.